Lois Zayim. So we discussed earlier how the avodas ha'odam, the hamshochet that takes place through the actual avodas ha'odam, brings about the Gilu Ha'atzmus, brings about the revelation of Atzmus, and makes a Dira Lois Baruch La'atzmusay, which is much greater than the Hamshocha from Chofetz Chesed Mitzad Atzmai, uh, which was in the beginning of Brias Olam. And the Rebbe says this is why also the level we will reach, the Osid Lavoi, will be on a much higher level than the level we have now, because the Osid Lavais Giluyim come la'acharei the Avodas Ha'odam, after the person serves and invests in Torah mitzvahs, that he's mamshich the higher level from Atzmus. But the hamshochet that comes now from the level of Chafetz Chesed in Brias Ha'olam, that's only a level of Hagbola. It's only a limited. Let's look inside. Zay. Zehu. And this is the idea, Shahashleim was the Olam Shetiya Lavi, the wholesomeness of the world, which will be in the future to come. That completeness, that shleimus, where do we see the shleimus? Because when the Pasuk talks about the lineage in the Sefer Rus, talks about the lineage of Rus, how Yishai and David HaMelech, which is the preparation for the kingdom of Leosid Lovei. Over there in the pasuk says Eila Toldos Peretz. Eila Toldos Peretz. These are the generation, the children of Peretz, because it all comes from the Shevet Yehuda, and Yehuda had the two sons, uh, Peretz and Zerach, and Peretz is the ancestor, the forefather of Yishai, and David HaMelech, as the pasuk enumerates there. But over there, it's unique that it's written the word Toldos. Toldos is written full. Eila Toldos Peretz, Toldos Mole, meaning Tov Vav Lamed Daled Vav Sof. That represents a high level of uh, fullness, completeness. It represents wholesomeness, which means to say, as the Medrash says, that it is a mole, meaning that it will be a complete and full. The world will be on a highest level, on a complete level. So this completeness that will be in the future, which is here hinted in the word Toldish, which is mole, that will be greater than the shleimus that was in the beginning of creation. The future, which comes after the avodah of Torah mitzvahs, will be a greater than the beginning, because also in the beginning, b'tchilas habriya, it also says Eila toldos hashemayim v'aretz b'hibarim. And the pasuk says these are the toldos of the heavens when they were created. It also says the words toldos. The word toldos is also with a full, with the vav and the vav toldos, which is toldos moli. And therefore, we know that it's olam al miluei nivra, as it says also in the Bereshis Rabbah. The Rebbe points to the ha'ara, that it was a full. So we're actually saying the world was going to be full in the future. The world was full, meaning on the full level uh, in creation. However, but we're saying that that completeness, that fullness, that wholesomeness that will be lost in love, it will be greater than the greatness, the fullness, and the completeness that was when the world was created, because this will come after Avodas Adam. Shashleim as the Olam. K'moshu mitzad habriya. That completeness, wholesomeness of the world as it is, way it was created. Eila Toldes, which is Malay, the Toldes, going to be Hibara. That's also represents Shlemus at the time of creation. And Olam al Milu Nivra, which means the world was created in a full way, in a complete way. But that fullness has a limitation. He b'medida v'hagbola. That has a measure and has a limit. So it's not an unlimited fullness, it's a measured fullness. The kivon shahageder the olam hu medida v'hagbola, since the definition of world is it's measured and limited, how they move on, so it's understood shagam hashlemus shaloi he b'medida v'hagbola. So also when we talk about Milui nivra, that it has completeness, fullness, that it's wholesome, but its wholesome is within the limitation because world, oilam al milui nivra, it's the world that it remains a limited fullness, which is a measured fullness. Bagam shabriya hoysum mitzad zeh shechofetz chesed hu. So although that creation starts off, why did the Abish, as we said before, decide to make a world was because Chofetz Chesed, which is higher than Hagbola, the level of Chefetz, and the level of Rotzin Tainug that is higher than limitation. Well, that was the original source, but when it comes down into the world, it's limited. Hare inyan the chafetz chesed, v'agam shabriyoysu mitzad zeh shechafetz chesed hu, even though it came because of chafetz chesed, shu l'mayla magbola kinal sivdalad, which is higher than limitation, as said before sivdalad. Hare inyan the chafetz, but the chafetz chesed is the cause, but it didn't manifest itself in the world. Hare inyan the chafetz chesed, this idea of Chofetz Chesed Hurak Hasiba Lahabriya. That is only the cause, that level higher than Hishtalshlus was the cause why Hashem created the world. Avol Habriya Atzma, but the creation itself, Hoyso Be'oifun, the Hishtalshlus Mailomata. It was in a way that it evolves. There is a chain. There is top and the bottom. It goes from the top to the bottom. So there is a limitation over here. So that's the completeness that the world was created. Mitzad Yom Rishon creation. It's take miluye nivra, but it's within limitation within the framework of Hagbola. As opposed to the completeness that will be in the future to come. That takes place through the actually service, the work of the person. Through the work that draws down, through that it's drawn down the revelation of the essence, the light, Shabbat Barech, which is in Atzmus, that comes down through Avodas Odom. Shein Shayach B'Shum Geder, there's no definition, there's no limitation there, there's no measurement. Lochein, Hashleimus, still Oilam La'asilavai. That's why the wholesomeness, the completeness of the world in the future to come, it'll be beyond any measure and any limitation. And that's why over there we're saying the 12 days is Peretz. Peretz Faratsto, breakthrough. Eila 12 days Peretz. As we see in the Chumash, why did she name him Peretz? It says Lomo Paratsto Lecha Peretz, because first his brother was going to come out. And she put a sign that this one is the first one born. But then Peretz broke through and came out first, and she says, "Lama paratz lecha peretz." Peretz means break through. The Indian Peretz. So what's this? So we're saying Toldos Peretz, a full breakthrough, a full higher than limitation. The Indian Peretz, the idea of Peretz shenikra kain al shem ma paratz lecha peretz. Why did you breach through this breach that you pushed yourself ahead? So that means that Peretz is to break through limitations, not to be restricted by limitation. So what's the Peretz it's called Hamadidas Vahagbolis, that he breaches and breaks through all measures and limitations, and you get the Tainuga Atzmi in the world way beyond the shlemus that is now, which is by itself, because the way it was mitzat creation, that we bring about the level of atzmus in a oilam that becomes a much alminluai in an unlimited way in its completion. So shlemus zu. So this completeness that starts with that will experience losi lavoi. Shanasis al dei avodas ha'odam, that takes place, that becomes through the service of man, whose chalabiyim hashishi lemaisa bereshis, that began on the sixth day of creation. Kshenivra ha'odam, his chilabidas ha'odam, when human being was created, and he started to serve, to work the land, the Adama. The Rebbe is going to explain, working the Adama means working with himself and then also working with the world, because the person himself is also Adama, as the pasuk says. Hashem created the person afar min ha'adama. So when Hashem puts him to work the Adama, meaning his own self, and then the Adama of the whole world. B'tchila as ha'adama sheba'adam gufa. Sheba'adam gufa. First, this work is to work the land, the Adama, which is in the person himself. Vayitzer Hashem Elikim es ha'adam afar min ha'adama. Hashem Elikim, says the pasuk, created Adam from this afar, from the dirt of the Adama, of the earth. So he is a earth, the person. So to work the Adama means to work with yourself. And then after working with yourself, Adama, and then through the working with yourself. So then, also the earth which is outside him. Hainu kol seder hahishtalshalus, that is the entire order of the ishtalshalus, all the outside of the person himself, the world, the Adama. The hakoil hoya min ha'ofer. So what is the world? I mean, it seems the Adama. So he says everything comes min ha'ofer. So everything in the world is from the Adama, as the pasuk says that hakoil hoya min ha'ofer in pasuk in Koheles. So therefore, working with yourself, Adama, and then working with everything in the world, which is Adama. Okay, now, as we said earlier, that Adam Arishain, as soon as he was created, he impacted boy also in the world. Shapo al b'chol habriya, that it impacted in the entire creation and this idea. The nishtachave v'nichro nivrecha lifnei Hashem Eisenu. Let's prostrate, let's kneel and bend ourselves before Hashem, who makes us. So he was encouraging and getting the world, all the creation, to bow before Hashem, which means he influenced them to the Gilui of Hashem. Ubefrat la'achrei Yom Hashishi de Matan Torah. So this was even starting with the creation, it started. But especially after the Yom Hashishi of Matan Torah, as the Pasuk says that Vayhi by Yom Hashishi, Bashmeres of the Matan Torah is Yom Hashishi, and we know that. Why does it say by Bria Sa'olam? It says that Vayerer Vayiboker Yom Hashishi, not Yom Shishi, because that's a reference to the Shishi of Matan Torah, which the Pasuk says Vahi Yom Hashishi, which means that the Eretz Yorah V'Shakota, that the whole world from creation until it came to Matan Torah, it wasn't secure yet. The world was still created, but it wasn't secure yet. But especially after we come to the Yom Hashishi, the Matan Torah, the Yom Hashishi of Bria Sa'olam, of Bria Sa'odam, that's Rosh Hashanah. But then when you come to the Yom Hashishi, which is Matan Torah, Oz Nase Ilui Ushlemus, by Yom Hashishi, the Ma'aseh Bereshis. At the time of the Yom Hashishi, when we talk about Matan Torah, then becomes Yom Hashishi was after the preparation over there. Either Moshe Rabbeinu added the day or not, so it was Shabbos, but it was the pasuk says Yom Hashishi. So Oz Nase Ilu Ushlemus b'Yom Hashishi the Ma'aseh Bereshis. After Matan Torah, that Yom Hashishi, that brought about the uh, elevation and the security in the uh, act of creation in Ma'aseh Bereshis. So then it also changed the impact that the work of man. Yes, Adam Arisha worked even before Matan Torah, but after Matan Torah, then it's much stronger. Shenasis al that the service of the Adam, of the man, and in the impact of the world that becomes through his avodah shalach Matan Torah, that follows Matan Torah. He that's on a higher level. Ubefrat. So that's after Matan Torah. Now, when we talk about Avodah Sodom and Rosh Hashanah itself, after Matan Torah, but now as it comes to Rosh Hashanah, as the Rebbe is giving the Mamer is during Rosh Hashanah, is talking about the Avodah of Rosh Hashanah, especially when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. Zeh HaYom Techilas Ma'asecha. So we say this day is the beginning of Hashem's actions. Dugmas Techilas Ma'asecha, that becomes similar to the beginning of what Hashem did. That was done similar to what was done, the service of Ad Marishna on the very first Rosh Hashanah. So that we repeat that on Rosh Hashanah, that we have a special strength because we are actually on the Rosh Hashanah, which everything is represented by what took place in the beginning as Zehayim Tchilas Masecha. But it's not only that it was by Rosh Hashanah by Od Marisha, by Lamaila Yeser, and even higher than by Odom Harishon, Uba Rosh Hashanah Gufa, and even when we talk about doing Avodah on Rosh Hashanah, every year Rosh Hashanah is a greater level. In the Bechol Shana V'Shana, every year and year, Inyan Zehu Ba'ofen Naila Yoser, this idea becomes even in a higher level. Ki Hatzivui Mailim B'Kodesh. As we're instructed, we should also go up in Kodesh, always do higher. So if last Rosh Hashanah was a level, this year has to be at a greater level. But to such an extent is the greater level on the Rosh Hashanah that we say, Shebachol Rosh Hashanah Nimshach Eir Chodesh Elyon, on every Rosh Hashanah it extends a new light, a supreme light on Rosh Hashanah, Yoser, a greater light, Shaloi Hoya Meir Adayin Mimei Olam Eir Elyon Kazeh. It never ever shined such a great light from ever, such a great supreme light like we comes down on this Rosh Hashanah. This is from the Alter Rebbe in Igeres HaKodesh. So that basically means that this year Rosh Hashanah that has the power to and brings down even greater lights than ever was in the world before. Ba'ad la'geula, until we reach the redemption. She'oz yale ha'peretz lefanenu. So this peretz that we were talking about, that breaches through, is actually referencing Melech HaMashiach, because the reverse talks about him, and the verse says, Ad sheyale ha'peretz lefanenu, till the one who breaks through will grow up in front of us, which is based on the pasuk in Micha, Yala HaPeretz, and V'yifretz kol hamedidas v'ha'agbolos, and he will breach through all measures and all limitations and bring about the true gilui of Asmus Ein Sof in the world. So this, the Rebbe explains that the giluyim that comes through avodas ha'adam are limitless giluyim, which are on a much greater and higher level than the hamshachas that come, even though that it's also amiluy nivra, it's also complete, but that's within limitation. When the world on its own before avodas ha'adam, the avodas ha'adam brings down the level of atzmos and the level of the greatest level. And the Rebbe is going to connect now this to the three different items, the three different brachas that we do, the Malchis, Zikaron, V'Shofros, to the three levels that we talked about on Rosh Hashanah. You have Techilas Masecha that we talked about before, which is creation by Hashem's Chofetz Chesed. And then you have the Zikaron, the Yom Rishon, which is revealing the Chofetz Chesed. And then you have revealing the Atzmus, which is higher than Chofetz Chesed, as discussed earlier. Ches. Hine Gimul Inyonim Hanal. These three aspects, ideas that we said before, Hanim Shochim B'Rosh Hashanah, that extend on Rosh Hashanah, which is Techilas Ma'asecha, which is creation by itself. Then Zikaron Yom Rishon, the Avodah on Rosh Hashanah, which remembers Yom Rishon Agilu, the Chofetz Chesed, that reveals the higher level, the level of Sovev Kol Almin, that the Chofetz Chesed is revealed, the cause for Techilas Ma'asecha. And then Bamshachas Gilu Tainuga Atzmi, through the actual Avodas that Rebbe explained, that brings down the revelation of Tainuga Atzmi Shalamayla Mechafetz Chesed, which is higher than Chafetz Chesed, is basically Memala Kol Almim and Sovev Kol Almim and Atzmas. The idea of Techilas Ma'asecha is Memala Kol Almim, Zikaron Yom Rishon, the Gilu Chafetz Chesed, Sovev Kol Almim, and the Giluya that comes through the Avodas Ha'adam, that's Gilu Tainug Atzmi. So these three inyonim, hem al derech gimul ha'inyonim, the Malchis, Zikaron, V'Shofros, this is similar to the three aspects of Malchis, Zikaron, V'Shofros, which we do on Rosh Hashanah. Inyan hu, the idea is the Malchias heim b'chinas Memalo Kol Almim. Malchias is in the level of Memalo Kol Almim. That's the represented by the brachas, by the Betzukim of Malchis. As explained in the Mamer that we're talking about before of the Tzemach Tzedek. Therefore, it's an oir, which means it's a light shebe'erech ha'oilamos. It's a light which is within the comparison, within the realm of the world. So the arousal from below, the person's work reaches into that level of of being able to be mamshechit because it's a within the level of a malchlam. So imru lefonai malchias kidei shatam lechuni aleichem. This is what we say. You say before malchias, so I will become your king. So which means it's a response to the sarusa de latata. The k'moi she'inyan hamlucha lamata nas al yidei ha'om, just as the kingdom, Malucha below, becomes through the people, Kamesha Kosu. The people make the king. Soim Tosim Alach HaMelech. You should place upon you the king. Similarly, it's also in the way it is in the heavenly Malchus, the Malchus of Shamayim, the Ebershter's Malchus, to make my king. This that Hashem becomes a king, while that comes through the Yid making him the king. We crown him, we make him our king. That the Yidden accept upon them the yoke of the heavenly kingdom. And they ask, we say to beg the Ebershter king. And the Bebakosha Bekabolazu included in this asking, in this request, and this acceptance, Nichlalas Kama Bakosha, it also included the request Sheyigzer Aleinu Gzeiris, that he should make decree and not decrees, Vekabolas oil mitzvahs, and also we accept in this part of it is to accept the yoke of mitzvahs, Lekayim Kol Masha Yigzer V'yitzaveh, that we will fulfill everything that he will decree and command, but in a way of accepting the yoke. So it's not just accepting Hashem and then we'll use our reason to, if it makes sense. No. Part of it is decree to accept, we accept him as a king, meaning that we're not uh, agreeing, we're accepting. It's Kabbalah She'el Mach Shemayim. Ukanusach the birchas kol hamitzvahs. The language of all mitzvahs, they change. Different mitzvahs have different brachas. But what is the unique language? What's this? The general language of all mitzvahs? You say Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvahs v'tzivanu. He sanctified it with his commandment, and he commanded us. And not he explained to us, or he said, but a command. It's a gzera. Shakiyum ha-mitzvahs hu mitzad ha-tzibur v'gzeira, the observance of mitzvahs is because of the command and the decree. So that's part of when we're saying Meloich, we're saying that we're accepting your kingdom. Through this acceptance, through this request, the Ebershter becomes first a king over all the Yidden. You make me king over you. And through them, it's also the Ebershter king over the whole world. First the Yidden, then we make him a king over the whole world. So how could we impact Soim Tosim Alecha, that we are the ones that make Hashem a king? Because the level of king is a level of Malkul Am in which the Sarusat Tata can reach. And this that through the avodah of a yid we can awaken that idea of malchus, of Hashem's kingdom. Because the idea of malchus generally is in she is a russo de litato magas l'shom, in which the arousal of below can reach there. But the Techilas Masach is similar to the idea of Techilah Hashem makes of his action, which we said is the Hamshocha in Hishtalshlus and Memalu Kul Almim. That's the Techilas Masach, the way it was in creation. In order to desire creation, that has to come from Atzmus Ein Sof, that he didn't bring out. It means only that it comes from there, but the Hamshoche is in a way of Memalekulam. And the Rebbe explains now. Agam Sheberesh Hashanah. How could we just tap into the level of Memalekul Almim, the level of godliness which is fills the world, when we know that we need to start all over from the beginning, which has to go all the ways up to Atzmos to be Dam Shocha from there. If we can't reach, there's no Isarusa Dilatata to the higher level, so how could we say that we're only reaching into Mamalekul Almin when we need to go back all the ways to the beginning? We have to start the whole process of creation all over again. It goes back all to the beginning. So we have to go tap into Atzmos to bring down. So that's what Rebbe explains. V'agam shebereish Hashanah chayzrim kol advarim lekadmus. Although on Hashanah all matters go back to the very original Vamshoch Hasamalchus the Reish Hashanah. Himatz Musayri Sof Shalom Ailami in Hamalchus, and the drawing down of the Malchus Reish Hashanah really comes from Atz Musayri Sof Shalom Ailami in Hamalchus, which is higher than Malchus. Malchus is take Hishtalshlus, but in order to get the Malchus to come down, we have to draw down from Atz Musayri Sof. How could we actually tap into there? Because Yidden, as we said earlier, the Rebbe brings down now, are vested there, they're rooted in Atzmus. V'zeh shebekoichem shel Yisrael lahamshich. Atzmus Eirin Sofu, this that the Yidden have the power to draw down Atzmus Sof, because they're rooted in Atzmus. Valderech hamavur b'lekut Torah, similar to what's explained in the Torah. That zeh shebi choltom shel Yisrael. The oir is galus malchusi is baruch matzmusa mohusei. That this over there explains the Torah that how do the Yidden have the ability to arouse the revelation of his blessed malchus from matzmusei umitzad habris asher koras Hashem imonu liyis loilam, that comes because of the covenant that Hashem formed with us, with the people, to be His nation, and this means sheyu doimim lahamelech. He made us that we should be similar to the king, Anoshim Kimaisei, like him. So we have the ability to tap into Asmas. We're like that, and the Abishter made us that we should have, because of that covenant, should be like Hashem, and we can uh, arouse, and we have the root in Asmas to come down from there into Malchus. So why are we saying only Mamalu Kalamim? So it has to go all the ways up to Atzmus to bring it down. Likad Musam. This is that the root of the Amshocha is from Atzmus Erisov. Avol Hamshocha Atzmahu, but the Amshocha itself, Hishanim Sheches Inyan Hamalchus. But what does come down? Yes, it's rooted and it's aroused, and it comes from the Neshamas Yisrael, but they only bring down the level of Malchus. Generally speaking, that's Memalekul. Then you have, so Malchios, that's Memalekul. Then you have Zichronis. The idea of remembrance is in the Sofa Kulam. Remembering means something which is in a distance. Which is holy, distinct, and separated, distinct from the world. The idea of remembering only applies something which is a distant, either b'mokim in space or b'mayla in elevation. It's far away, then we can remember it if it's in front of you. So Mamalak Olam is in front of us. Soivev is beyond. To the extent that this doesn't really take place by you, by him. So, meaning we have to remember it because it's just like a distance. It's not. This is why Zichronis is in the Atzvonus of which all before is nothing, which is remembering the Yom Rishon. Over there we also say Zikaron. So it's like Atzmos, which is not another words for save of Kol Almin over here, because we're going to learn whether it's yesh b'mitzias or not. Like you said before, the tzur, hachalomish, and the gacheles, depending on how distant. Zeu the suchrenis ubatzmus ein sof the kula kamekele chashivi. Over there, everything is like nothing, which means it doesn't grab hold. It's far away from us. We need a zikaron to reach there. Well, in the zikaron l'yemrishin also it says zikaron l'yemrishin also the idea of zikaron, to remembering something distant. Elo, but even though we're talking about that this is a distant, it's kiloi chashivi in shafa pikein gam inyan hazikaron shaykh dafke, but still. When could you say remembering al davar sheyesh b'mitzias gam lifnei shezechen olav, something which exists before you remember it? But it's distant from him in space and advantage. That's why we say Zikaron is a Seviv. Because it's like a Zikaron, but a Zikaron means both. It's far away, but it exists, and that's why Zikaron is a Seviv. Because Seviv, there is the exact, it's higher, but it is also, it's Seviv the Elomis, so there is an existence of the word. But actually, but it's like in a distance and not mamash chashivit. That's why we have the idea of Zikaronis. The Indian Shofris, so that's the Chorija. Shofris will be Kemavur Bedrush Anal de Tzemach Tzedek. As explained in the Maimon Tzemach Tzedek, the Koila Shofer Klolo Pnimo Shemebichinas Pnimis Alev. That the coil of the shofar is the inner voice that comes from the inner of the heart. The Mezeh move on. So since it's the pnimis of the heart, we understand Sham Shoch Shal De Shofar Mipnimis V'Atzmus Ein Sof Shalamaylo Gam Mesoivev. That the Shofar Amshocha from the inner and the essence Ein Sof, which is higher than Soivev. U'Kamesha Kosuv L'Cho Omar Libi Bakshu Fonai Esponecha Bakshu Abakish. The heart says that Bakshu Fonai, if you seek the pnimius of my heart, of the person, the Yid's heart, you reach Esponecha Vaida. They bakshu pone through seeking my pone. Hatzoka the pnimis alev the cry out of the inner of the heart. Esponecha Havaya Avakish. That's where you bring down Ponecha. Hamshochem pnimis v'atzmus ein sof. That is that bringing down the inner and the essence of ein sof. Well, derech hamshochas v'gilu tainug atzmus shelamaylo gama yin the chafetz chesed. This is similar to drawing down and revealing the essence tainug, which is higher than chafetz chesed. Ubefrat. So this is the third inyan, befrat, that comes through avodah. Befrat al pi hayadua the shofar meloshen shaplu masirhem. Shofar means from the loshen improve your actions, and which is who tainug. That's the level of tainug, and also the Maisa brings tainug. Shebchinas ha tainug the shofar u'mekorat tanugim, and the level of tainug shofar is the source tanugim. Ad shashu amelech v'atzmusay, the light of the king in his essence. So this is all the level of shofar. So these are the three levels that we have been discussing before, and the Rebbe will continue to explain further.